First, I want to thank everyone for showing up. Regardless as to whether you've been here for the past year and a bit or this is your first day, these communities are strong because of people like you all showing up, all working together. So thank you very much. So I come from a slightly different background. First, let me talk a little bit about what my company does, because we're actually not a networking company. We're an enterprise company. And what we focus on is we focus on healthcare and AI. And so what we do is we allow people to use their cell phones. They can hook up their health data into their cell phones. And then we allow researchers to come and do research like clinical trials and other similar things using data that's on the cell phones while still preserving the user's privacy. So we don't collect the data or any other similar. Like we don't collect the data to our central servers. We push out the experiments and models to the edge devices and run our experimentations there. And so we use state-of-the-art encryption and machine learning techniques in order to also keep data safe when you train on it. And so the way you keep data safe is, besides the encryption part and not having access to the data, is when you train on the model, we use federated learning. So we train the model on the edge devices. And we also use differential privacy. And that's where you add noise in such a way that any individual user, you can't work out what the training set was. And instead, so it looks like noise to you, but you maintain the overall signal of the population because the noise is centered around 0. And so the way that we build this particular machine is we make heavy use of cloud-native infrastructure. Turns out our edge devices are often hard to reach and secure. And so NSM provides us an important capability to solve part of that reachability problem. And so in terms of aligned interests, so the reason why I was able to convince DocAI to invest in this area is because we have aligned interest. So one of the things that we're looking to bring into our infrastructure is looking at bringing in things like SPIFFE and Spire. So if you look at the NSM reference architecture, you'll see SPIFFE and Spire is used to work out. I have a workload that needs to connect to another workload. You can't just say, yes, let me connect. You actually have to establish who is that workload that I'm connecting to, or if you're on the server side, what workload is connecting to me, and you have to establish that identity first. And then you have policy, and that policy says, is this thing allowed to connect to me, or am I allowed to connect to that other device? And all of this is built into network service mesh in a way that's seamless, where even if the workload we're connecting to happens to be owned by another organization, we can still enforce these type of policies, these connections. And so there's a very strong shared interest with enterprise. And to give you an idea how bad this can get, I once set up a VPN between a large enterprise, and the process of setting up this VPN, we got the go-ahead pretty quickly. It took 6 months of going forward and back, like literally 6 months to go through, to work with security, to work out how do we debug this thing, why is this thing failing, how do we organize all of the parameters and so on. And with NSM, part of the vision is that once you get that approval, you establish the trust at your identity level, and then you set up your policy. And once you've set up your policy, you should just be able to make the connection and have it done in a couple of minutes instead. And so this is, from the enterprise side, like the amount of money and time that this can potentially save you is quite staggering. And once if you decide to change your policy, you have a workload that you need to sunset. Instead of trying to work out, which access control list do I need to remove in order to close access to this sensitive system, you just delete the policy. Now you're set. And those workloads, any straggling ones, won't have connectivity anymore. So that's kind of a world that we're looking at moving into, and NSM is a critical component of that. And just a request for those of you in the telecom, maintain alignment with enterprise. Like, this is, for me, incredibly important, because one of the things that you could do is you could say, well, let's fork Kubernetes. Kubernetes doesn't do these particular things that we need. If you fork it, you now are no longer aligned with enterprise. And so to give you an idea of the size of the Kubernetes community, The size of the Kubernetes community, it is the second largest community in open source. The first one is the Linux kernel itself. So if you think, oh, I'm going to fork Kubernetes, I'm going to make some changes in order to enable my workloads and make my telecom work in the way that I need. Sure, in the beginning you may have some good results, but in the long run you're going to have to take up the mantle of maintaining that system, and you're not going to have the community there to help you. So if you stay aligned with the community, then you're able to grow with the community. Follow the cloud native best practices, and so you should check out the X Factor CNF listed the website up here. Come see the lightning talk and panel at the CNCT TUG on Wednesday. Start thinking about identity and policy as to what that would look like in your organizations, and come collaborate with the community. Come visit us on our weekly calls. We have in the NSM community, we have both a Pacific time friendly call, and we have a Asia time friendly call. So come join us and have conversations with us. Tell us what works for you. Tell us where the holes are. And with that, we should get started with our talks. So first up, we have NSM from a network noob's point of view. So I'd like to invite the individual to come up here and get set up.